Hello everyone, welcome back to Luke's TV Talk. I'll go over some of the most recent TV episodes I've been watching. And for this video I'll be looking at Cabinet of Curiosities Episode 5, Pickman's Model. But just before I get into that, I uploaded a review for Episode 4 of Cabinet of Curiosities called The Outside, and also Andor Episode 9. So if you're interested, go give them a watch, and make sure to like and subscribe to keep up to date with all future episodes. Okay, so let's get into the plot of Cabinet of Curiosities Episode 5, Pickman's Model. Art student Will meets a fellow artist in class called Richard Pickman, who he ends up calling Dickie. Will tries to convince Dickie to take part in the yearly competition, but it doesn't go well. Will eventually sees Dickie's painting that showed disturbing scenes of monsters, death, and other horrifying imagery, including dismembered humans. After seeing the painting, Will hallucinates multiple horrible creatures, but Dickie suddenly vanishes. So he sees this really creepy old woman with a messed up face like a witch. He sees this creepy creature in the graveyard. He sees odd imagery in carriages. He has no idea what he's seeing. It's just strange imagery all round. Years later, Will is an art curator and Dickie is a well-known artist. Will wants nothing to do with Dickie and has an intense hatred of his work. So after seeing all these horrible things and having horrible hallucinations, I can imagine why Will wouldn't want to be anywhere near Dickie or any of his art. One day, Dickie visits Will's wife and son, but Will sends him away. But his son, unfortunately, sees a piece of art from Dickie and starts not to be able to sleep. So obviously it's starting to carry over to the son. So Will ended up having dreams and horrible visions of like death and him dying. And it's probably now passed on to the son, who's now seeing the same horrible things. Dickie invites Will to his house to see all his work. But Will ends up shooting Dickie and burns all of his work. So Will has just had enough. He thinks Dickie and his paintings, all of his work is horrible and shouldn't even exist. So he just outright kills him. Dickie gets dragged into a well by some type of creature and Will just gets out of there. He doesn't want to even think about it anymore. Suddenly the next day, Dickie's work is being shown in Will's collection, which his wife and child see. Will has it all taken down and sends his family away. So Will is not having any of it. He wants his horrible artwork and paintings out of his sight. He doesn't want anyone to see them. The fact that his wife and son saw it is bad enough, but he doesn't want anyone to be put through what he's been put through. Because of the psychological effects of the paintings, his wife Rebecca goes mad, cuts out her eyes, and kills her son, James, cooking his head. So this is a horrifying scene where you see her cooking and she doesn't turn around. But then she spins around and her eyes are just gone, her face is covered in blood. And then Will is just like, where's James? And he opens the oven and it's just his head on like this like stove, and it is horrifying. And the kind of horror which isn't jump scary horror is just so unnervingly terrifying. It's some of the scariest stuff you can see. But overall I had a fun time with this episode. It wasn't as good as some of the previous ones, but I enjoyed it all the same. It's pure psychological horror. It's all messing with your mind, making you feel paranoid, and what are you really seeing? Is the paintings messing with him, or is it just him seeing things out of his own scaredness of the paintings? It's very much Lovecraft for the good and bad, so the psychological horror is obviously a good use of the horror trope. Like, you see these horrifying paintings, they take a toll on your mind and you start to see things. But on the bad side, it's very random and it's jumping from thing to thing. You don't really understand what is going on sometimes, so it's got its goods and bads. The art is terrifying. All the pieces that Dickie makes are just terrifying. It's just each one has its own like scare factor to it. It's like creatures and almost the simple things like this woman staring out of the painting. It's almost like paranormal. It's horrifying. The dreams are terrifying. Like Will has one dream where he gets tied up and these people around him watch as they cut his throat, and they're all like cannibals. It's horrible. It's a horrible thing to watch. Dickie is a strange character, so we never really get a full idea who Dickie is. We just know he's a bit of a strange person, and he just does this artwork. We don't know his full backstory or anything. And then the horrifying end with the wife and the son just sums up the psychological horror that everyone was put through, and it culminated in that horrific scene. The one little shortfall I thought was that the story was fine overall. I enjoyed it. But the scenes felt almost stuck together, and like it would be here, then it would jump here, and then it would jump to the next scene, and it would jump forward in time, and then jump, and it wasn't really like a cohesive story in my eyes. It kept jumping to places, and it didn't flow well with me. I don't know if it was the pace or it was just the way it was shot, but it didn't work as well for me as I wanted it to. But overall, it was a good episode. The story was interesting enough, and I think the fact that it was based on a Lovecraft story definitely helped, because he has very iconic stories and the way he makes the story sound. But yeah, that's my thoughts on this episode. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to keep up to date with all future episodes. And until next time, I will see you all later.